This is Mrs. Naslund, and today we'll be doing Unit 7, Lesson 13, one-step and two-step equations. Our learning target for today is, I can solve one- and two-step equations. All right, so if we look at these, the problems that we're going to start with are one-step equations, and then we'll go and look at some two-step equations. And what they mean by that is in one step you can solve the problem. And we've already done a couple problems like this in previous chapters, so let's review. First, this equation says m minus 1 equals 9, and they want us to solve for m. So I would like to rewrite my equation. So I'm going to say m minus 1 equals 9. And then, if you remember back to our previous lessons, I want to try to get m by itself. And in order to get m by itself, I have to do the opposite operation. So right now, my operation is minus, and the opposite of subtraction is addition. So in order to get m by itself, I'm going to have to add 1 to this side of the equation and add 1 to this side of the equation. And when I do this, what happens is a minus 1 plus a 1, basically they just cancel out. So I end up with m equals 9 plus 1, which is 10. All right, let's try another one. V plus 4 equals 13. All right, so again, oops, I forgot to do my plus 4 here. Let me go back. V plus 4 equals 13. Now, again, I look at the operation that's being done. In this case, it's addition, and I think, okay, I want to get V by itself, so I have to do the opposite operation. Now, the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to say minus 4 here, and I'm going to say minus 4 here. All right, and then I go ahead and solve that. And when I do this, I can cross these off because it basically equals nothing. And I end up with V equals, and I have to do 13 minus 4, which ends up equaling 9. Now you can go back and double check your work, and you should. Let's try it. If I plug this in, if I say 9 plus 4, I end up with 13. Let's double check this one. If I plug in m equals 10, if I put 10 in here, 10 minus 1 is 9. And so we know it works. All right, so now I want you to go ahead and try 3 on your own, and let's see what you get. All right, so if I do c divided by 5 equals 10. And again, I start by thinking about, okay, what is the opposite operation? So in this case, because I want to get c by itself, in this case my operation is division, and the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to say I'm going to times it by 5 on this side, and if I do it on this side, I have to do it on this side in order to make it work. So I multiply it by 5, I solve it, and these cancel out. So I end up c equals, and I think of what is 10 times 5. 10 times 5 is 50. And then you always want to go back and check your work. So let's plug in. 50 divided by 5 equals 10. It works. Great job. Now, it could also be written in a word problem equation. So let's go ahead and read this problem and see if we can figure it out. The cost of an item is $9.50, not including tax. The cost of the item including tax is $10.07. Which equation below can be used to find the amount of tax? Now, if you remember back to previous lessons, my strategy that works very well is that I go ahead and try to solve the problem first by writing my own equation before I even look at theirs, because the way they write them, sometimes it can get a little confusing. So I know that the cost of one item is $9.50, and that's without tax. And they said that after tax, my total was $10.07. Okay, and the question is, they want to know is how much tax? Find the amount of tax. And they say that I'm supposed to use t as my number. So I'm going to have to take my total, And I know I'm going to have to add on that tax. And I don't know what it is, which is great because then I'll just use that T that they told me to use, equals $10 and, oh, I wrote 1, but it should be $10.07. So let's go ahead and see if any of my equations match this. So they have times, no, that'd be a lot of tax. They have tax minus, nope, that doesn't work. There it is, $9.50 plus tax equals $10.07. So our answer is C. All right, I want you to go ahead and try to solve this one on your own, and then we'll come back and do it together. So this one says, Caesar earns $8 for mowing a lawn. Last week, he earned $32 mowing lawns. Which equation below can be used to find the number of lawns N he mowed last week? So again, go ahead and write how you would think you'd solve the problem first, and then see if you can figure out which equation matches. All right, so right away, I look at this and I can actually solve this equation right away because I know that he earned a total of $32 and that he earns $8 per lawn. So I'm going to just say 32 divided by 8 because that'll tell me how many lawns he actually mowed. Now, they tell me that my lawns is N, so I'm going to put an N down. I don't know why it's not an L for lawns, but it's not. And then I go ahead and see if anything matches it. That one doesn't matches. Ooh, B is a perfect match. Awesome. And see, that wouldn't make any sense, right? I wouldn't want to times 32 times per lawn because that's how much you learned in a whole week, not per lawn. So that doesn't work. So my correct answer, if you got B, was correct. Now we're going to go on to two-step problems. So in these ones, you have to do two different steps to solve the equations. So let's go ahead. Again, I like to rewrite the problems. It's just easier to solve. So we've got 2n plus 1 equals 9. And I go ahead and I'm going to try it again to get n by itself. But you'll notice, you're saying, Mrs. Naslund, there's multiple things here. And we are only going to do one at a time. So I'm going to say right away, I want to get n by itself. I can get rid of this 1 really easy because I can do the opposite of plus, which is subtract. And subtract 1 from both sides. So when I do that, I can cross those off. I'll rewrite what I have left. I have 2n equals, and I do 9 minus 1, which is 8. And now I still want to get that n by itself. So I'm looking at this 2n, and if you think back, what does a number next to a letter mean? It actually means we're multiplying these two numbers, 2 times n. So I'm going to do the opposite of multiply to get n by itself, which is divide. And again, this is the tricky way of writing divide. It's like writing a fraction, but I'm going to say 2n divided by 2 and 8 divided by 2. And when I do that, I can cross these off, cross the 2's off, got to leave my n. And I say n equals, I say 8 divided by 2, which is 4. Now again, you should go back and try it. So if I plug 4 in, if I do 2 times 4, I get 8 plus 1 equals 9. It worked. All right, let's go ahead and try the next one. All right, so I started by rewriting this equation for us. It says parentheses c divided by 2, parentheses, plus 3 equals 4. So again, I'm going to solve what I can solve right away. And I see this plus 3. And again, I want to do the opposite of addition, which is subtraction. So I'm going to say minus 3 here, and say minus 3 here. And then I go ahead and rewrite my equation. Now I can cross these off because it's the same. And when I rewrite here, I still have that c divided by 2. I don't need the parentheses anymore because it's all by itself. There's nothing else on that side of the equation. So c divided by 2 equals, and I do my 4 minus 3, which is 1. Then I'm going to try to still get c by itself, so I'm going to do the opposite of divide. And what's the opposite of divide? Multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 2 and multiply by 2. So when I do that, I end up with c equals, and then I do 1 times 2, which is 2. So C equals 2. And let's plug it in and see if it works. So I have to do my parentheses first. So I say 2 divided by 2 equals 1, and 1 plus 3 equals 4. It works. All right, let's go ahead and try this one. I'm going to rewrite the problem. All right, so I've rewritten the problem here, and I want you to go ahead and pause the video and see if you can solve it on your own. All right, so first I see what I can do right away to take off some of this stuff from the equation. And I see this minus 2, so I think, okay, what's the opposite of subtraction? And that's addition. So I'm going to say plus 2 on this side. If I do it on one side, I can't forget to do it on the other, okay? In these equations, you always have to do the same thing on both sides. So I go ahead and rewrite my equation now. I can get rid of these because they cancel each other out. And I get 4h equals 22 plus 2, which is 24. Now, I want you to think back when you have the number and the letter next to each other. It actually is multiplying. It's saying 4 times h equals 24. So you're going to do the opposite of multiply, which is divide. Remember, this is just the tricky way of writing divide, just like a fraction. So 24 divided by 4, and that gives me h equals 6. Then we take our 6 and plug it into our equation to check and see if it works. So 4 times 6 equals 24. And then I do 24 minus 2 equals 22. It works. Great job. All right. I think we have time for at least one of these, maybe two, but we'll try number 22 here. All right, so in this problem it says, Jacqueline earns a weekly allowance of $4. She also earns $5 for each hour she babysits. Last week, Jacqueline earned $29 altogether. Which equation below can be used to find the number of hours each that she babysat? So we've got a lot of numbers here. We've got that she earns $4 as her weekly allowance. So she just gets that once a week. She also earns $5 for each hour that she babysits. Last week she earned $29. There's a keyword, all together. Which equation can be used to find the number of hours, which they want us to use h, that she babysat? Okay, so first off, we know that last week she earned $29 altogether. So when I go to rewrite my equation, I know that on the equal side of the equation, on the opposite side of the equal sign, is going to be that $29 because she earned a total of $29. And I know that she got $4 allowance. Okay, now she just gets that $4 of allowance. But I also know that she earned $5 for each hour that she babysat, and they want h to be hours. So I'm going to say $5 times h for the number of hours that she did. Now the question is, what do I want to do with this 4? And I know that I want to add it because, again, she just got the $4. It's not based on hours or anything like that. And that should equal the total number of hours or the total amount of money that she earned. So $5 for each hour she babysat, and we don't know how many hours, plus the $4 of allowance equals the $29 that she earned altogether. So then we look at our equations and see if we can find one that matches. Nope, that one doesn't match. But B matches perfectly. And this wouldn't work because this was saying then that she would get her allowance for every hour that she babysat, and that doesn't make sense. So the answer is 5 times h plus 4 equals the $29 she earned. Great job. Today we talked about 1- and 2-step equations and how to solve them.